What's going on, my beautiful people? This is your certified life and relationship coach, Coach Court. In this video, we're going to be talking about signs of an unhealthy relationship. Thank you for sticking around. This is your first time viewing me. Do me a favor and subscribe to the channel by clicking that subscribe button and ringing that bell so you're notified for all the newest videos. If you want my help personally, reach out to me on my website at www.fruitfulseedswithaz@the end.com and leave me an email no longer than 2 to 3 paragraphs long. For all others, go ahead and book a session with me directly from my website. In this video, we're going to be talking about signs of an unhealthy relationship. And I went ahead and boiled them down to 4 different signs of a relationship that shows all the characteristics of it being unhealthy. And the very first one is the relationship moved too fast. Now, it's interesting when people get into these relationships because people on the outside looking in are usually scratching their head and they're trying to figure out, why is it that this relationship seems to be unnatural and to be just an unhealthy dynamic? It's usually because when people get into relationships, they get caught up in the limerence stage or the honeymoon phase in the beginning of the relationship, where you really want to speed things along extra fast because you don't want to lose out on missing that person. Because listen, what I've learned about the dating world is dating is tough these days, especially when you have so many different options as far as dating apps, as far as people that you don't really gel with really well in the beginning. So you usually just go to the next person. So when you find that person, you really want to make sure that you can solidify that relationship and make sure that they're not going anywhere, because dating is very tough these days. There's not a lot of people that are getting into commitments, and that usually turn into an unhealthy relationship because you don't really know that person. I say all the time, you don't know who a person really is before the first 90 days of dating them. Throughout that first 90 days, they can still have this mask on. They can last up to 6 months. But I'm going to get to that later, because you have people that are more narcissistic. They can really hide that for much longer because they know how to play the game. They've been doing it for a long time. That's one of the signs, but I'm going to get to that later. The second sign is someone in the relationship is controlling, whether that be the man or the woman, somebody who tries to mold the person into what they want them to be or who they want them to be. They prevent them from going and hanging out with friends and family. They prevent them from doing little things that helps them take back their individuality and to stay a whole and independent person. When you have somebody that's controlling, they get very uncomfortable because they feel insecure about the things that you're doing, which means, hey, you need to be solely relying upon me for your happiness. And when that doesn't happen, the person gets controlling. And this is usually caused by something that happened to that person in the past, where they felt like if they would have done something differently, if they would have spoke up, if they would have said something, if they would have stopped that person from doing XYZ, then the relationship would have lasted longer. But it's just a false sense of viewing things, because everybody is their own person. So when you get into a situation where a person is super controlling, that's a red flag. That's also a part of narcissistic behavior. So like I said, we can get to that later. The third sign is pretty much obvious. Physical or mental abuse. You should never stay in a situation where you're being physically or mentally abused. Now, mental abuse is kind of hard to spot. Like, you don't really know when it's happening to you, because it's just kind of like covert usually. And you feel as if I'm just trying to be a good person. I'm trying to be a good spouse or a good girlfriend or boyfriend. So you don't really pick up on how they're mentally manipulating you. You may have a person that feels like, hey, when you're around me, you shouldn't be on your cell phone, or you shouldn't be doing this or that. There's little ways of gaslighting you in order for you not to spot exactly what's going on. Now, physical abuse, usually when people stay in relationships that they're being physically abused in, it's because they have a very low sense of self-worth, or they feel this is the best that they can do. Now, usually when people stick around in physically abusive relationships, it's because they have either experienced it in the past from family, upbringing, whatever went down around their household, or because they they feel like they deserve the abuse. I've seen it so many times where women are feeling as if they only wouldn't have said this or said that, or wouldn't have done this or done that, then the man would have acted differently. But once again, this is just another part of a person who has a cluster B personality. And if you guys are familiar with the cluster B personality, which is on the DSM model, I'm not a therapist, but I study this stuff, and I just want to be able to pass this information along to you guys. It's the cluster of personalities disorders where you have the antisocial personality, the sociopath, psychopath, narcissist, bipolar or BPD. So when you're dealing with somebody like that, they're very self-absorbed. They're very non-empathetic in relationships. So they can't see the problem with physically abusing you, especially if you did something to get out of line, or if you done something to make them upset. Now, they may come back down the line and apologize for it, but usually the apology is just putting a Band-Aid on the gunshot wound. It's not authentic. It's not real. It's just for you to get back under their wing or up under their spell, or whatever you want to call it, so they can, take advantage of whatever they're getting out of their relationship. And the last sign is someone who has narcissistic tendencies, which includes everything that I talked about before, but it also goes a little bit further. It's somebody who's non-empathetic, who gaslights you, who makes you feel as if you're beneath them. Now, I talked about this in one of my other videos, The 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse by Dr. John Gottman. Now, in that video, he talks about how if these 4 things continuously happen in a relationship, the relationship will end with a 98, 99% accuracy. So those things are gaslighting, stonewalling, criticism, and contempt. And usually when you're dealing with somebody that's a high degree of narcissistic, they'll do all of those in a relationship. They won't take accountability. They'll criticize you. Now, this is all part of the devaluing stages, where they'll love bomb you in the beginning, and then all of a sudden you're nothing to them. And then it comes with the last stage of discarding. Now, there's a lot of channels out here that talks about narcissistic personality disorders and people with high levels of narcissism exclusively. So you can guys go check those channels out. But I just wanted to include that because it's important for you guys to understand and spot these things throughout the early stages of the dating process, because you don't want to invest yourself into something that is going to not work out down the line, or it's going to potentially cause you to be unhealthy heading into your next relationship experiences. Dating is hard work. And I know a lot of people would rather deal with an unhealthy relationship than have to get back out there in the dating world. But you can't be lazy. You have to do the work. You have to vet these people properly in the beginning of the relationship, so you know exactly who you're dealing with going down the line. And you can't ignore it, because what's going to happen is people are going to consistently show up the way that they've shown up in the past. And if you accept that and you invite that into your life, you're just going to set yourself up for disappointment, heartbreak, and ultimately heartache. So if you found this video of any value, please like, comment, and share. Reach out to me on my other social media accounts, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. It's I am Coach Court. If you want to book a session with me, go to my website, www.fruitfulseeds.com. Thank you, guys. Now I'll talk to you soon.